Hi everybody, it's been a while since I made a video, but I've been quite ill with allergy problems, autoimmune, and I'm still actually recovering. But I've decided to get online today and make this video, and there's a couple of points that I'm going to make here, but the first one is about Louise Ellman MP quitting the Labour Party and basically calling Jeremy Corbyn anti-Semitic. This needs to end. This nonsense needs to end. For a start, Jeremy Corbyn is not anti-Semitic, and there are many Jews in Britain that support Jeremy Corbyn and support his comments in response to the atrocities committed by the Zionist government that has been controlling Israel for how long now? Zionism is not Judaism. It's a facet of Judaism. It's an ideology. It's an ideology that has founded its roots within the Judaic faith, just as, for example, the Ku Klux Klan has its ideology rooted in Christianity. But nobody would accuse anybody who spoke out against Ku Klux Klan atrocities as being anti-Christian. And that is the point that we need to understand, because the Zionists have been committing crimes against humanity. They have ignored the United Nations protection and endorsement of Palestine as a nation. They refuse to accept Palestine as a nation. They are illegally occupying Palestinian territories. They are illegally persecuting and arresting children for demonstrating, for protesting against illegal occupation of their lands. If they try to fight back, the Zionists call them terrorists. We have had enough. The people of this planet, the vast majority of people, caring, compassionate people. I'm sorry, Zionists, you're going to have to accept that human beings are not psychopathic creatures. Okay? Being strong does not mean stamping down one's compassion. Quite the opposite, actually. It takes strength to be a compassionate person in this world and restrain from violence in face of the atrocities that we have to witness and even endure personally on a day-to-day basis. It's a very difficult world for compassionate people to live in right now. A world largely dominated by Zionists, a Zionist-controlled banking system, a Zionist-controlled politicians in Britain, in America especially, the Israel lobby. Let's call it for what it is, the Zionist lobby. Because even the vast majority of people in Israel are themselves victims of that same government that calls itself Jewish. Okay? Are they really Jewish? Are they really honouring Yahweh? I don't think so. And true Jews do not think so. They do not support them. I am not anti-Semitic. I have marched through London with Jews, hundreds, if not thousands, of Jewish people marching through London in support of Palestinian people's human rights. Okay? Now, fully, some Jews, true Jews, do not even recognise the state of Israel. Jeremy Corbyn has never said he doesn't recognise the state of Israel. He has spoken out against Zionist atrocities, and we all have a right to do that. Being of a Jewish faction of faith does not give anyone the right to commit crimes against humanity. That is the fact of it. So, Louise Ellman, very pleased that you're leaving, because obviously you are a covert fascist. That is what you are, Louise Ellman. All you people who think that Zionists should be able to get away with murdering people, incarcerating children, stealing their homelands, calling them snakes, breeding little snakes. That's from government ministers. Okay, if you want to stand by them, fuck off is what I have to say to you. And you know, I'm a person, never swore for most of my life, but this last few years, I'm sorry, a spade is a spade, and fuckers will be labelled as they are. You are a fucker. And that is what you are doing right now, Louise Ellman, is working for on behalf of the fuckers, because you want to fuck up Jeremy Corbyn's chances of getting into Parliament. You want to fuck with the British public's consciousness by spreading your lies, and the BBC's there to help you, and calling for an investigation into Jeremy Corbyn for anti-Semitism. Well, how about I'm calling for an investigation into the Israel lobby and the amount of damage that they are inflicting on our society by funding organisations like the EDL covertly. We know that they're behind them, okay? With their racism, they're anti-Islamic. It's them who are anti-Semitic against Muslims. That is the fact of it. And even against true Christians like myself who stand up for our human rights, because that's what Jesus did. That is the essence of Christianity, is standing up for our equal human rights, that we are all human beings, regardless of how much money we have. And she cannot seem to understand this. And, you know, here we are. While the media is complaining about Louise Ellman quitting, and mostly Zionist thugs are celebrating getting Lab Left Voice suspended from Twitter. So, you know, this is how far it's getting now. It's like, oh yeah, you know, the Labour Party's anti-Semitic, so, you know, therefore we're going to have to ban them from Twitter, maybe ban them from Facebook. It's like, look, I'm sorry. Media, you do not control the British people. I am a British citizen. I come from the very bottom of the social heap in British society. I have not voted for 30 years because I have not trusted not one single MP that has come forward as leader of any particular party. Okay? But I am voting this year for Jeremy Corbyn, and I advise everybody to do the same, because it is time to remove these Zionist thugs out of Parliament, out of our nation. This Brexit that is totally inspired by the top financiers who are afraid that they're going to have to pay taxes. They're afraid that there's going to be scrutiny on all of their fake and fraudulent businesses, that most of them are money laundering fronts for all types of criminal activity, from illegal arms sales, child prostitution, child abuse and drugs sales. I'm telling you, these people, we have been governed by outright criminality. Now here, I've written this, and it has actually been sent to MI5, and it has been sent to the EU and to various MPs, Intel for Investigation Brexit. It covers Brexit. The first part covers mainly what has been happening with this Brexit stuff. Okay, but if you skip through, I'll leave you the link to it under this. Further points of concern. This is where the evidence gets very, very disturbing. And we are talking about David Cameron, Thatcher, under Thatcher's government, David Cameron involved in illegal nuclear weapons that also involved Israel, okay? And, you know, the plan of Mr. Javid, Chancellor of the Exchequer, he wants to turn England into, well, basically Singapore on the Thames, okay? Singapore on the Thames is what they want, a post-Brexit tax haven. They don't care if we lose Ireland, they don't care if we lose Scotland, as long as they stay out of jail and keep on to their money and their power, and they will be scrapping. You know, here it is. What Singapore on the Thames visionaries appear to have in mind can be summed up as a commitment to sweeping tax cuts for corporations and mobile rich people, tax wars as a fiscal weapon, tax measures such as accelerated capital allowances to attract mobile investments into UK. We're talking about money, not work, jobs. Comprehensive deregulation, removal of social and environmental protections, weak or non-existent compliance with international anti-money laundering measures, retaining golden visa arrangements to provide residence rights of the wealthy, non-British citizens, increasing exposure to oligarchs and corrupt illicit financial flows. Now, anybody who's supporting Brexit, whatever your reasons, okay, if you are not a member of the top 10% of British society or the global finances for that matter, then Brexit is really not for you, okay? Because what you were told you would be getting is a pack of lies, because what you are going to be getting is a tax haven, with factory prisons replacing the welfare benefit system. No NHS, removal of all of your rights, even though we had most of those rights before we even entered the EU, but apparently when we leave we can just scrap them all. It is outrageous, okay? But that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is the crimes, as I've shared before, that Mr. Gordon Bowden has exposed. The worst of it is the nuclear weapons that David Cameron was involved in, and the illegal sale of those nuclear weapons that saw £17.5 million being fraudulently taken from the public purse and fed directly into the Tory party's bank accounts. Okay? Now, you know, basically, according to the evidence, a group of globally powerful criminals, you're talking Zionist Israelis, British Tories, okay, and American interests, far-right interests, not only deal in secret nuclear weapons and receive huge financial rewards. From there they get to become and/or control UK government, and then use evidence of their crimes to justify an illegal invasion of Iraq, bomb the place with illegal weapons, causing a crisis in child deformities, stillbirths and cancer, and thereafter leave ISIS to run amok. When Mr. Blair PM assured Iraqi people they were to be liberated, did he envisage that liberation included Iraqi teenagers being hung or decapitated for watching football or listening to rock music? And here we are in 2011, the MOD had to apologise to Parliament for lying about depleted uranium. After questions from a Labour MP, the MOD was forced to admit that contrary to his previous statements to Parliament, depleted uranium weapons had not been through the Geneva Weapons Review. Nick Harvey admitted that he had inadvertently misled MPs, lied to MPs, about a Ministry of Defence review that he said had concluded the weapons were permissible on humanitarian and environmental grounds under the Geneva Conventions. So, you know, this is what we are dealing with. I ask the British people to please go and have a look at Iraq. Look at what has happened there. This has happened in our name. This is what our government has been involved in. And it is time we started arresting these criminals before they start arresting us just for the simple fact we're standing up for our human rights. Before they start giving themselves rights to impose martial law on us and have rights to come into our home and confiscate our property, which it comes under the jurisdiction of martial law that is fully intended to be implemented the minute Johnson gets his hard Brexit, whichever way you look at it with this new deal, we're talking about the kind of Brexit that strips people of their rights and allows Britain to become a tax haven. The only argument has been about where to have the border. Oh, apparently it's going to be in the sea between Ireland and England. We're talking absolute nonsense here. With totally restricted freedom of movement, and I have lost patience now. I have no time for people coming to me saying leave means leave, and I ask them, well, what does leave actually mean then? And they can't tell me. That is very disturbing. It's basically somebody trying to persuade me to leave my home to go and live somewhere else. Oh, well, we're going to give you a better place. All right, then where is this better place? Where is the evidence for it? Where's the foundation for it? Oh, well, we'll just have to wait and see, won't we? We'll just wait and see. Well, I'm not prepared to just wait and see. My grandfather gave his life for the rights that we are about to lose. And I, for one, I will stand up, and I will, if I have to, fight to the death to keep them. And we all need to understand that that is exactly what we are facing right now, because this level of criminality that's governing us right now, it is the same consciousness that's governing Israel, that is committing crimes against the Palestinians, that has its hands in the American politics controlling Trump, the White House, the Israel lobby in America. Now we see America having exactly the same attitude towards Mexicans as Israel has towards Palestinians, and in Britain apparently we're going to have the same attitude now to Muslims, to European migrants, and well, to anybody who's foreign basically. But nobody is talking about the fact that every corporation has rights to bring in as many people as they like from anywhere in the world. Okay, that is what we are dealing with. And we are talking also about corporate troops. So, you know, please wake up to reality, people, because what we are facing is very, very, very serious. And things can change in a nation overnight. The people of Germany suddenly found themselves being governed by Nazis. Do not think for one moment that Britain is not right there on the very line of such a change in our society, as has already been happening in the very fact that 130,000 people can die in our nation directly through an economic policy, and nobody's barely batted an eyelid about it. But everybody's there going on about Brexit, while 130,000 people are dropping dead through austerity. How could that happen? That is actually worse than Nazi Germany, because, you know, let's face it, the Nazis are not in full control quite yet, but they've still managed, even with a democratic parliament, they've still managed to murder 130,000 people with an economic policy. And do not think for one moment that that figure is going to fall, because we're going to talk about a doubling, a tripling, a quadrupling if they get their Brexit and their plans to turn Britain into a tax haven. And that is why Boris Johnson, this government, have stated very, very clearly, you know, I'll show you the links, the reference links here. Boris Johnson has stated very, very clearly that the government has no duties to feed people on the event of a hard Brexit. They have no duties to provide food. There you go. Government says it has no duty to secure food supplies in a no-deal Brexit or any other crisis. Government stockpiling body bags. So basically they are not prepared to provide us with food in times of need, even that they've imposed on us, but they are prepared to provide us with a body bag. Okay? That says it all. And I have just witnessed on Twitter today, I'll have a look at it, should be on my profile because I shared it. I've just noticed on Twitter today that despicable character, Jacob Rees-Mogg, here he is, actually praising concentration camps. Okay, and I'm just going to play you this.
People being taken off their farms and put into camps, but there was a war going on.
Hundreds of thousands of people died.
The South African concentration camps had exactly the same mortality rate as existed in Glasgow at the time.
Yeah, you see, exactly the same mortality rate as existed in Glasgow. He's talking about the Boer Wars, like, yeah, it were fine. That's what he wants to get back to, that kind of society where thousands of people will die in concentration camps of poverty throughout Britain. And we need to bring an end to it. We need to stand up and rise up. whether you voted to leave the EU, whether you voted to remain the EU. Because I'll tell you one thing, right? If we're going to leave Europe, then we are going to be the Britain we were when we entered it. An independent nation, self-sufficient largely, producing our own products, okay, with our own independently owned and nationally owned industries and services. We are going to be a strong nation. We are not going to be leaving the EU with nothing while we're in the midst of despair and poverty, just in order for us to live under a bridge with a begging bowl under martial law, and in order to protect people like him, his business, his fascist business interests. Okay, because that is all it is about. And all this stuff about stopping immigration, it was a pack of lies, wasn't it? Turkey's not entered the EU. So you can pull that one off the table, can't you, Brexiteers? Because that was your biggest calling card. Oh, millions of Muslims are going to be flooding into Britain because Turkey's joining the EU. You know, that was the underground subversive comments that I was hearing, that I was witnessing online. Well, it isn't going to happen, is it? So let's take that one off the table. There is no argument whatsoever supports Brexit except people who are funded and supporting the Zionist party and their Zionist political ideology that really does believe compassion is a deadly danger. Well, it is. Compassion is a danger to their evil, criminal crimes, and it is time that we all stood up and said no. And that's why my vote's going with Labour and the Lib Dems. I'm sorry, Lib Dems, you stood by the Tories. You have supported them all the way, voted with them. Joe Swinson, you have supported every single evil Tory policy that has come into being since they entered office in the last 9 years. And I will never ever trust the Lib Dems ever again. I think Corbyn, the Labour Party under Corbyn, finally has returned to its roots and is the voice of the working people. And I am putting my full support behind Jeremy Corbyn. And you know, I have been very suspicious. I was not quick to support him because I do have such distrust and mistrust of these politicians who have let us down badly. I've witnessed the shambles of the last 30 years, and finally a voice of humanity has spoken and has dared to stand up to these Zionist fascists, is what I call you, Zionist fascists. So, and no way should you have any control over Britain after the horror that you have turned the lands of Palestine and Israel into. And I am somebody who does support the nation of Israel, who does support Jewish people and Palestinian people. Okay, and I am not a person who stands against. I stand up for human rights, and you Zionists are standing against my human rights, and therefore you are now facing my brick wall of defence, and the whole of Britain, so shall it be. And find your courage, British people, take strength, and know that we're right, and get behind Jeremy Corbyn, and don't be put off by all these lies being spread throughout the media now, the corporate media, because they're all running scared. They are scared to death because they know damn well that if they lose Britain, that is a big, huge cornerstone gone in their plans for their evil New World Order.